Hello everybody, Jen from Scrapping Under the Influence. I am here with a brand new project. There is a kit available. This is using the Simple Stories Simple Vintage Lavender Fields collection. So there's our little cover sheet from our 6x8 pad. This kit is going to come with the full 6x8 pad, the chipboard embellishments, cardstock stickers, journaling bits, and the full 12x12 coordinating solids, as along with all of your chipboard, your ribbon, and your cardstock. Everything you need to complete the project as shown, and a printed cutting guide. So this is 6 1/4 by 8 1/4 with a 2-inch spine. Nothing super complicated on this one. So this is one of the full sheets from the 6x8 pad that I popped up with one of the extra chipboard scraps from making the base of the book. Inside we've got a waterfall over here that I had one flap. I didn't realize till I was matting that I cut completely wrong. See how much shorter that is? I was matting, I'm like, why doesn't this fit? It's because your flap was wrong and you didn't realize it. So we've got a little waterfall here on top of a side-loading pocket with a ribbon closure. And like I said, the ribbon for this kit, of course, is all included. Over here, we've got one of the big chipboard pieces. There's, in the journaling bits, there are two little pockets and then an envelope that you can actually fold together and tuck things into. So that's what I did there with some of the little tags from the 6x8 pad. And we've got another belly band over here and some nice big photo mats. Each one of these does have an insert. I did not map the inserts. I didn't want to add bulk so that when you add your pictures, they'll still fit into the page. But there's these little tab pieces. They are not connected, which makes them super easy to put on so that you're not getting them like, you know, when they don't want to bend quite right. Super easy to put on. So that's where I ended up deciding to do inserts from. Next up, we've got a 4x6 photo mat and a big flap here, and then we've got split pockets back here. These are just a couple of the pieces from the journaling. We've got from the cardstock stickers, the journaling pack, journaling bits, and then the chipboard over here. And this is another one of the pieces that came like ready to go. I just glued it on 3 sides and glued the top, and then this was just one of those little journal elements. Over here we've got another one of the big like title pages from the 6x8 pad, a couple of the chipboard stickers there, and then a nice big photo spot there, and a good sized pocket down here. Another insert back there. So this, we've got another belly band, and I didn't make additional inserts. You should have more than enough cardstock and scraps and stuff left to do so, but I did a tiny pocket on here so that you could put some of those little bitty tags in there. And there's another chipboard there. Next up, we've got flaps with an on-pocket flap, and then there's my other little pocket piece from the journaling bits. That was just a total surprise. That's not something I've seen in a Simple Stories ephemera pack before, and it was just kind of fun. Another one of our photo mats. We've got a 4x6 flap here, and then stacked pockets. Over here we've got 4x6 flaps going out and up and down, just because that is one of those elements I really enjoy doing. I like, you know, how interactive it is, and you can tell that, you know, you've got an interactive element because you can see part of what's underneath. And then back here we have a flip out that is 4x6. There's our last little insert. And then back here we have got a side-loading accordion pocket. Of course, all of those will fit into, and then it ties closed down here on the end. And that is the project. This one goes together really fast. When I did my matting on this, I did do it a little bit differently than I normally do. Instead of, you know, taking this that was 5 1/2 by 6 and going 5 3/8 by 5 7/8. I actually took 1/4 of an inch off, so I've got a little bit bigger of a border with that cardstock because I really liked how the London Fog luxury gray cardstock looked with this paper, so I wanted more of that showing around each of the matted areas. So that is that. The kit is available on my website, scrappingundertheinfluence.com. There is also a cutting guide available as a standalone item if you have paper you want to use instead, but I don't think this one's going to last very long, so grab it while you can, and let's get into the tutorial. Okay, so we are going to start with 2 pieces of chipboard that are 6 1/4 by 8 1/4, and 1 piece that is 2 inches by 8 1/4. We are going to wrap this. So I'm going to start with my spine. The cardstock to wrap my spine is going to be 5 by 10 1/4. So I've got my 1 inch top spacer. I've got my 1.5 inch spine spacer. These are my Clearview cover spacers. They are available on my website. I just realized my camera's in there crooked. There we go. All right. So I've covered the back of this with tape. I'm going to go ahead and get the backing off of that and go ahead and drop that down. Okay. I'm going to leave my top spacer. I'm going to grab my next piece of cardstock. This is going to be 8 1/4 by 10 1/4. And I'm going to grab my 1 inch cover spacer and my chipboard. So again, covered completely with tape. Apparently overlapped and cut the backer paper. Okay. Again, drop that down. Repeat one more time. So again, 8 1/4 by 10 1/4. So your chipboard, when you're doing this method, is always going to be, your cardstock to wrap your chipboard is always going to be 2 inches bigger than your chipboard for the covers, and 3 inches larger on the width only for the spine. Okay. All right, so we are done with the spacers. This can go back in the drawer. And we will move that out of the way for a second here. All right, so next thing I'm going to do is go ahead and fold the cardstock around the chipboard and burnish. So I'm just using the chipboard to fold that cardstock around and then burnishing the fold off the chipboard. Okay, like so. I'm going to do this on all 3 pieces. Okay, and that one. Next up, I'm going to miter. So all I'm going to do is take and cut out a little sliver off of my folded section. Okay, like so. And then I'm going to fold this in and finish off the miter. Okay, and again, I'm going to do this on all 3 of my pieces. away. And the next thing we're going to do is take our 1/4 inch tape, and we are going to go all the way around. Like so. And again, we're going to do that on both of the cover pieces. We are not going to go on all 4 sides on the spine piece. At least not like this. Okay. I'm going to push that off the other side of the table if I'm not paying attention. Alright, so on the spine, we are going to put our tape on our ends. Okay, and we're going to turn it over so that the pretty side is up, and we're going to go along our outside edges. Okay. Then, with it still facing pretty side up, I'm going to take my bone folder and I'm going to burnish along the edge of that chipboard. Okay, that is going to define that. It's going to make it easier to put our cover together. Okay, so next up, go ahead and get the glue ready. We are going to wrap our chipboard. So I'm going to start with my spine, and we are just wrapping the ends on this one. So I'm going to run a little bit of glue along the edge of the chipboard, and then in that middle section, and then I am going to fold up, burnish up against, push up against the chipboard, fold over, and burnish it down. If you have a little bit of glue that seeps out, that's fine. For our cover pieces, I'm going to go ahead and take my tape off all the way around, or take the backing off my tape. I don't know what, and I have said it wrong like that for years. Every time I think I've finally broken myself of the habit, I do it again. Alright, so I am going to wrap my long sides first. You could just go all the way around, like one after the other. I like to do opposite sides. So again, glue along the edge of the chipboard in that middle section, over, and burnish it down. And then again on the ends. Okay. Wipe up anything that leaks out. And we'll do it one more time. Okay. All right, and again, I'm going to start on the long sides. I'm going to burnish up, over and down. Alright, so next thing we're going to do is take our spine and our cover pieces, turn everything pretty side up. I'm going to come out here and I'm going to go ahead and remove the backing. Okay, I'm I'm going to lay my spine, or I'm sorry, my cover on top of my spine. I'm going to use my finger at the top. I can see at the bottom if I'm lined up. I'm going to use my finger at the top to guide it, and you'll feel when it slides down off the side of that chipboard, and then you can go ahead and just push it down. If you keep seeing my shirt kind of pop in here like this, my table is height adjustable and I'm breaking in new shoes, so I'm standing, which is not normally how I do this. I stand to cut everything. I don't know why, but assembly I don't usually stand. However, doing cards, I always end up standing because I end up walking back and forth to the die cut machine and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, that doesn't matter. All right, I'm going to flip that over, burnish that down. And then we need a piece to reinforce the middle. This is going to be 8 1/8 high by 6 inches wide. You want this to be at least an inch wider than the cardstock that was used for your spine. I have the back of this piece covered completely 100% in tape. The reason for this is, and I've said this a million times, but just in case you're new, when we put this down, we want it to adhere 100%. You don't want anything bubbling, you don't want glue lines, you don't want part of it peeling up, and that is the best way to ensure that happens. So I'm going to center it top to bottom, side to side, and put that down. Burnish that down. Then I am going to fold up on one side, and I'm going to burnish into that crease where that cover bends. Go to the other side and do the same thing. And I'm going to close it, and I am going to pinch. Okay? And there is our cover. Now, I do want to mat underneath where my spine is going to go. I'm sorry, not my spine, my hinge. So that is why you have the, partially why you have the 12 by 12 solids. Okay, I'm going to go ahead, sorry for the crinkling, I meant to get these out earlier. And I think I want, some really pretty colors in this. This is the first time I've actually opened this, so I think I want this white with the wheat pattern on it. Or the, is it a wheat? No, it's a lavender. That makes sense, you know. Okay, so my spine is 2 inches wide. So, and this, if I use it with that pattern facing up, it is directional, so I'm going to go ahead and trim off the branding strip. And I'm going to cut a strip that is 1 7/8. Oops. Drop the paper behind me. And so 1 7/8 by 8 1/8 high. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and glue that down so that has a minute to dry while we make our hinge. And our pages, our page bases, that is. Okay. All right, so I'm going to set that to the side for just a minute. I'm going to grab my scoreboard. All right. So our spine is going to be 5.5 by 8. Cut it just a hair under 8 inches, and I don't think I did on mine. And when I say a hair, this is literally what I mean. Okay? Just so you don't have anything sticking up in the way when you put your pages on. Okay. You're going to put the 5.5 at the top of the scoreboard, and you're going to score at 1/2 inch, 1 inch, 1.5, 2, 2.5, 3, 3.5, 4, 4.5, and 5. Okay. Now, we are going to take a pencil, assuming I can find one because I have moved things around. Okay, I'm going to mark X, X, skip a space. Hold on, let's zoom in a little bit. There we go. So X, X, skip, X, X, skip, X, X, skip, X, X. Okay. We are going to start folding. We are going to start with one of the two middle sections. Fold this over. You're going to make sure your sides are lined up. And you are going to burnish from the middle out. Okay? You're going to fold back. And again, burnish from the middle out. What that does is that keeps you from accidentally putting too much pressure and causing your score line to go crooked. Okay? Turn it over. Grab that hinge, fold it back again, middle out. Okay? All right, we've got one. I'm going to turn it over, kind of flatten it back out a little bit. I'm going to go to my next one, next middle, make sure my corners are lined up, and burnish from the middle out. Fold back, middle out, middle out. Turn it over, fold it back, middle out, middle out. Okay? Then we can do our ends. The ends, you know, I mean, they're the ends. They should be okay. Turn it over, fold it back, and again, middle out, middle out. Get our other end. Turn it over, fold it towards yourself. Okay, so we've got everything burnished. I'm going to grab my glue and we're going to go back through the exact same way we just did this. We're going to start in one of our middle spots. And we are going to add glue. We're going to fold this over, and again, you're going to make sure that your outside edges are lined up, and then you're going to burnish from the middle out and the middle out. You most likely will have glue come out. If you don't, you probably didn't use quite enough glue. If you have a ton of glue coming out, you used too much. Okay, so fold back again and burnish again from the middle out. Turn it over, fold it back, middle out, middle out. Okay? We'll go to our next inside and repeat the process. So we're going to fold this over. We're going to make sure we're lined up side to side. Burnish from the middle out, middle out. Fold it back, middle out, middle out. Fold it over, fold it back, middle out, middle out. Okay? And then we'll do our ends. As long as you are burnishing any of your score lines, like with this, with flaps, it doesn't matter. From the middle out, they will stay straight. Because I know I have a tendency to get a little bit heavy-handed when I'm burnishing, and that helps them to stay straight. Okay. Again, over, middle out, middle out. And then again. All right, so there's our hinge. I'm going to grab our base. We're going to center this over here. If you want to see, because my hinge feels off, I'm going to measure at the center. I've got 1.5. At the top, I've got 1.5. At the bottom, you can see I am off by almost 1/8 of an inch, which really is too much, so I'm going to end up redoing this. But at this point, you're just going to glue this in centered right here. I'm gonna fix my hinge. I'll be right back. Okay, I think I figured out what happened. I think when I was scoring one of those outside lines, I think the paper shifted, because that happens to me a lot and I usually catch it. All right, so we're going to go ahead and glue this in. Okay, so I'm going to hold it by the outside edges and center it, which you could probably not mat underneath this if you wanted to. You don't have a whole lot of that paper showing. I just thought it would look nice. So anyway, all right. So next up, we are going to do our page bases. So I'm going to grab the scoreboard again. Because of the size of the album, this is literally the simplest size or simplest page base you can do. It is 8 by 12. We are going to score this at 6 inches. You need 4 of these. Okay. So we are going to fold and burnish. So I'm just going to fold them in half. Make sure they're lined up, and then burnish from the middle out on each of them. Okay, so we have our page bases, we have our hinge. I'm going to grab my spacers. So I designed and patented, well, patents, going through its process, hinge spacers to help line up, which I don't think I have the 3/4 in here. I don't, because I don't usually do 3/4 hinges, but I had those requested. I do 3/8, 1/2 inch, and 5/8 most typically. I'm going to use my 1/2 inch, which, as you can tell, are very well loved. There's a lot of glue on there. Doesn't impede these working, but these are to help you get your pages into your mini albums evenly spaced across all of your pages and evenly spaced off of the base of your hinge so that your pages turn smoothly. Okay, so all you do is you slide these down over your hinges and push them down so that they're flush with the top of your hinge, and then the same on the bottom with the bottom of your hinge. If you have a shorter book, they still work. If you have more pages than there are spaces, you'll do your first few and then slide your spacers over. Works beautifully. Okay, so those are on. So what we're going to do, I'm going to take one of my page bases, I'm going to add glue and glue along my bottom to seal this off. But on my hinge side, I'm just doing the corners on both sides. The reason for this is I'm going to turn this sideways. I am going to put this down on my hinge, line it up top to bottom, and I'm going to pinch this. Okay? And I can go ahead and pinch this all the way down that side where we've glued that closed. But I'm just going to hold this for a second for this to set up. Okay? The alternative is to just do your corners, which honestly is probably going to be the easiest way to do this. Do your corners like so. Drop this down, because we're going to go back through these anyway to get this middle section where we don't have any glue currently. The reason being, the more I have played with this, and at this point I designed this almost 2 years, actually more than 2 years ago. I started selling them almost 2 years ago. This is the most efficient, easy way to get this to use the spacer. So when you're putting these on, like I said, we're just getting the corners. You're going to put these all the way down against the spacer and then pinch. You're going to line it up, which with this where we're open, you know, top and bottom, we don't have like a page we're kind of hooking on here. You do have to kind of eyeball a little bit better. I've never had a problem getting my pages all nice and lined up using this. But with this size of page specifically, where it doesn't have anything on the bottom, you do have to kind of watch. Which you'd be lining it up to the height of your hinge anyway, so there is that. What did I do here? I didn't get it on the right side. There we go. All right, I'm just going to hold that for a second. Okay, so now I'm going to slide these out. You don't want to try and pull them up and over. They will break. Okay, and we're going to lay this all down flat. I'm going to move my spacers out of the way. And I'm going to come back. So this is the one I glued the bottom shut. And I'm going to take the tip of my glue and I'm going to come up underneath here and I'm going to burnish this down. Now, normally I would do both sides at the same time. However, because I have matted my spine, I want to make sure when I turn this over, I don't have glue seeping out and then this sticking to the matting and pulling it up. I have done that, I cannot tell you how many times. Okay, we're going to turn it the other way and go in that gap again and burnish. Wipe up anything that spits out. And then we're going to go on this one, we're going to go in there, we're going to go along our bottom, we're going to turn it and do the other side. So we're going to do all 3 spots at once. Okay, turn it back, burnish on this side, and burnish along the bottom. Okay. So again, we're going to do our side, we're going to do our bottom, and we're going to do our other side. Now, I will say, because the baby album that I released a couple weeks ago was a really big project. So I did actually assemble my pages outside of the book. It is more difficult to use the spacers with the pages assembled outside the book. It can be done, it's just, honestly, I think more work than it's worth, so I still end up doing them manually in that case. But it's very, very rare that I assemble pages outside the book. That one is just because of the size of the book. It was going to be easier to get all of our page elements on and get them on nice and neat doing it outside. Okay, so there we go. We've got our tops are open and our pages are in. So we're going to start with our front inside cover. We're going to start with a piece of cardstock that is 9 1/4 by 3 5/8. Starting with the 9 1/4 at the top, you are going to score it 1/2 inch and 8 3/4. You're going to turn it to the 3 3/4 inch side, 3 5/8, sorry, and score it 1/2 inch. Okay. We then have a waterfall element. You need 5 pieces that are 3 1/8 by 4 5/8. So with the 4 5/8 at the top, you're going to score each of these at 1/2 inch. Okay. Waterfalls, we do not miter. Pockets, however, we do. So I'm going to miter on my top. And then on the bottom where the score lines cross, we are going to cut straight across. Okay. All right, so we will fold and burnish. And go ahead and fold and burnish on our waterfall pieces. So that they are ready to go. Alright, so then I'm going to take my pocket. So this is going to be a side-loading pocket. I want the edge, folded edge of the pocket to the left. No, to the right. We're going to go ahead and build our waterfall on the pocket before we put it in the book. It's just going to be easier. So, I'm going to start at the top. Because we are doing it on a pocket, makes it very easy to get them nice and straight. Oops. Fold that back. Again. And again. And on this one, I'm actually going to fold that tab back the other direction and put it on top of the one underneath. Okay, so now this is ready to go in the book. However, before we do that, we are going to add some ribbon. So I'm going to grab my ribbon and I'm going to grab my score tape. And my ribbon is going to fall off of the table. All right, so I'm going to hook this down kind of about 1.25 inches in from the side. Okay. And then I'm just going to kind of lay this on here to get an idea of how much I actually need. I'm going to go like that. And depending on, you know, if you can tie a bow or not, which if you've been around here any length of time, you know I cannot tie decent bows to save my life. You may need longer or shorter, just depending on how yours goes. Okay, so I've got my ribbon in there. I'm going to do just this long side of the pocket first. Okay. Now, I'm going to pull up the backing kind of on that end because it is going to overlap slightly because I did get a little carried away with my tape for that, but that's okay. Alright, this is going to go all the way to the outside edge. And I still managed to get a couple of my waterfall pieces crooked, but it's okay. Alright, then I can get this off. Add my glue, top and bottom, and then burnish that down. Okay, now moment of truth. Did I leave myself enough ribbon? I did. Yay for me. Barely. Okay, so there is our first element. We are going to flip to, actually no we're not. We're going to go in order. Alright, front of page 1. We've got a couple of flaps and a belly band. So our belly band is going to be 1 3/4 inches. I changed the size on this piece like 4 times and I literally ended up with a scrap. 1 3/4 by 7. We're going to score at 1/2 inch and 6.5 on the 7-inch side. And then we have 2 flaps that are 6 by 6 and a quarter. Why are they 6 by 6 and a quarter? I'm not honestly sure. Okay, 6 and a quarter at the top. You're going to score it 1/2 inch on both of these. All right. So we are going to miter both of our flaps, like so. And we are going to miter our belly band. Okay. All right, so I'm going to bring my book in. I'm going to fold and burnish my flaps and my belly band. All right, so the flaps are the same width as the page. If you would like to corner around, you absolutely can. I'm gonna leave mine as is. All right, so I'm gonna put my first one down here at the bottom. Turn this upside down and put the other one at the top. They do overlap in the middle. We are not doing any kind of closure because in your embellishments, if you have the kit, you have this whole pack of very large chipboards. One of those on there will be enough to weigh that down, especially once it's matted, to keep that closed. Okay. Our belly band is just going to get centered in here. So I'm going to go ahead and get my glue on there. I'm just going to kind of eyeball, center, and call it good. Okay. Back side of page 2, we have pockets and a flap. All right, so our pockets, you need 2 pieces that are 5 by 3.5. With the 5 inches at the top, you are going to score at 1/2 inch and 4.5. Turn and score at 1/2 inch. Okay. These are going to go side by side. Oops, let's not do that. See, this is why. Right there, why. Okay, we have a flap that is 4.5 by 8. With the 4.5 at the top, you're going to score at 1/2 inch. And we're going to miter. And miter the pockets. All right, so I'm going to turn this sideways. I'm going to fold and burnish my pockets. And you're going to make sure that they both fit. So they are going side by side like so. It looks like we're going to be good. So I am going to get glue on all 3 sides, which is not normally how I do this, but in this case I think we're going to be fine. And burnish that down and do the same thing on the other side. All right, so now our flap is going to fold over the top of these. from this side. Okay. So I'm going to turn it sideways to make sure I've got this lined up where I want it. Okay. All right, so then we're going to do a tuck spot over here that is going to run the entire length of the pocket. So this needs to be 8 inches. And this is just one of my scraps. So this piece is 1 3/4. Now I do want it wider. Actually, we're going to make a slight change. It's going to be a flat pocket. So we are going to do it on 3 sides. And it's going to go right on top of those other pockets. And then I just have a 4x6 mat that's going to tuck in there and hold that whole thing closed. So that opens up. You've got 2 separate pockets in there. And then you've got your tuck on the front. Okay. Let's grab the scoreboard again. And the front of page 2 has a large flap and a pocket. Our flap is going to be 6 by 8.5 with the 8.5 at the top. You're going to score at 1/2 inch. Our pocket is going to be 4.5 by 7, starting with the 7 inches at the top. You're going to score at 1/2 inch and 6.5. Turn to your 4.5 inch side and score at 1/2 inch again. This is another one where we'll use a chipboard on the front, and that will weigh that large flap down to keep closed. So we're just going to go ahead and miter everything. And folded burnish. Folded burnish. Okay. I am going to put my pocket on first. Okay. So I am adhering the bottom down first. And then I can fold it back and get my sides. Just because it is a bigger pocket, it is running all the way across that page. That's why I want to do it that way. Okay. Flip it around, and we're going to put this at the top. Okay. There we go. Grab the scoreboard back. The back side of page 2, this one's going to be a little bit different. We have a belly band. This is 9 by 2 1/4. With the 9 inches at the top, we're going to score at 1/2 inch and at 8.5. Then we have a very small pocket that's going to go on top of the belly band, and this is 3 1/4 by 3 1/4. So 3 1/4 at the top, we're going to score at 1/2 inch and at 2 3/4. You're going to turn and score 1/2 inch again. The reason we're doing this is because we are using the 6 by 8 paper pad for this project. There's a whole sheet in there of little tiny tags. And I just thought it would be kind of fun to be able to cut some of those tags and tuck them in a tiny pocket on the belly band. So, alright, we're going to miter our pocket. And folded burnish. Glue this on. Now, it's up to you if you want to do this in the middle, if you want to do it at the bottom. I am going to center mine. I just think that'll be kind of fun. And then we can fold and burnish our ends and go ahead and put this on the book. Okay. There we go. All right, front of page 3. We're going to need some more ribbon for this one. We're going to do 2 flaps. Our flaps are going to be 4.5 by 8. 4.5 at the top. You're going to score at 4 inches. Okay. And then each of those is getting a pocket. Your pocket is going to be 4 by 5. It is going to be a flat pocket, so only our sides are getting scored. So we are going to score at 1/2 inch and 4.5 on the 5-inch side. Now, if you wanted to score the bottom and make them, you know, a little bit deeper, you absolutely could. All right. So, before we go any further, so that we do not forget, we're going to go ahead and add our ribbon. So, I'm going to pick a side. I'll go ahead and adhere that down. I'm going to decide about how much I think I need to tie. We're going to go about like that. Should I use those scissors? Those scissors are so dull, it's not even funny. All right, I'm going to leave it connected so I can line it up on the other side. Maybe. And then just pull it straight up and cut. Okay. So, move that back out of the way. I'm going to go ahead and miter. And yes, I am doing 2 at once. And then I'm going to miter on my pockets as well. Okay. Get all these little pieces out of the way. All right, so I'm going to put my pockets with the bumpy side facing up as if they were open. And we're going to go ahead and glue these down. So before I do that though, I want to make sure that it's not too wide. Okay, so let's actually go ahead, mold and burnish that so we can see. Yep, I think we're good. So I'm adding glue on my sides and across the bottom. Okay, and that's just so that these are going to close, not be super bulky. And there we go. Okay, and we'll do the same thing on the other side. All right, so then we'll just go ahead and put these in the book. Put this to this outside edge. Okay. And same thing on the other side. Okay. And tie it shut. Awesome, there we go. All right, so the back side of page 3. we have a flap and stacked pockets. So our flap is going to be 6.5 by 4. 6.5 at the top, you're going to score at 1/2 inch. And then our pockets are going to be 5 by 7 and 4 by 7. So with 7 inches at the top, we're going to score at 1/2 inch and 6.5 inches. Turn to the 5-inch side and score at 1/2 inch. And then with the 4 by 7, start with the 7-inch side, 1/2 inch, 6.5, turn to the 4-inch side, and 1/2 inch again. Go ahead and miter. Alright, so I'm going to assemble my 2 pockets first. Okay, so there's 1 and 2. It's weird. Okay. So I'm going to glue the smaller one on top of the larger one, and then we will put it into the book. Okay. And I'm literally breaking my own rule again about doing the bottom first and then doing the sides, but you know what? I'm going to trust myself that I did it right. Always a scary proposition. Okay, burnish that down. We're going to miter the top of our flap. And fold and burnish, and then that's just going to get centered so that it comes down over the top of the pockets. Okay. All right, front of page 4. This one, we are going to need ribbon on this one as well. We're going to have overlapping flaps. This is an element I do fairly regularly because I really like how it looks. So we have 2 pieces that are 6.5 by 4. The 6.5 at the top, you're going to score at 1/2 inch. And 2 pieces that are 4.5 by 6 with the 4.5 at the top, you're going to score at 1/2 inch. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and miter all of these. Alright, so I'm going to grab my ribbon again, and I think we're going to do it just across the middle again. So I'm going to line that up. We're going to go about right there. See what I said? My scissors are not good for this. Again. Okay. There we go. Now we can go ahead and put our page elements on. I'm going to start with my 2 side pieces. So fold and burnish. Center that on this side over here. I'm looking at those ribbon pieces and thinking I probably did just cut them too short for me and my inability to tie a decent bow. But I suppose we will find out. Okay, then we're going to fold and burnish our top and bottom pieces. And go ahead and put those on as well. Moment of truth again. Barely enough. Okay, back side of page 5. We do need to mat before we actually put anything down on it. So I am going to find, I think we're going to use that guy. So it is a 6x8 page. I think I want to go, let me see. I was thinking I might actually do like a little bit wider border on my matting on this one. I think I am. So normally I would go 5 7/8 by 7 7/8. In this case, I am going to go 5 3/4 by 7 3/4. I just think it's going to look nice, so that's what we are going to do. So let's go ahead and put this down. Okay. Yep, I like that. Okay. So for our page element, we are going to do a flip out. So we have one piece, oops, that is 4 by 12, 12 inches at the top. We're going to score this in half at 6 inches. Our second piece is going to be 4 by 6.5. However, I did cut this a 1/16 of an inch shorter. Okay, and we're going to score this at 1/2 inch as well. Miter. And fold and burnish. Okay. So this one is going to go like so. Why is this small? What did I do here? I grabbed a scrap that was not the right size. That's what I did. Alright, so let's fix that really quickly. It should be 4 inches wide. Not 3 3/4. Which clearly I was not paying attention to which scrap pile I grabbed that one out. Whoops. So, I did give you the correct measurement. I just pulled a wrong piece out of my scraps when I was doing this one. And that's okay. It happens. I know I had scraps that were the right size. Because I was going, why don't I have another one of these? That's why. Oh, I was going to cut that just slightly short. The reason, as I was about to say, that you cut it slightly short is so that when it's folded up in here, it's not catching and in the way. Okay, so then this folds down over the top, and then it goes in the middle here, and we will again utilize the large chipboard pieces, although, yeah, you could add some more ribbon here if you are better than me and can actually, you know, tie a bow without 55 feet of ribbon. Go right ahead and do that. But I'm pretty sure that the chipboard will be heavy enough. If not, I will end up throwing in a set of magnets. All right, we're going to center that on here. All right, last element. The back inside cover, we are doing an accordion pocket. So we are going to start with the accordion pocket itself. This is going to be 11 1/4 by 5 1/8. So with the 11 1/4 at the top, you are going to score it 1/2 inch, 1 inch, 1 1/2. I'm going to turn it just to make it easy and do, whoops, 1/2 inch, 1 inch, 1 1/2. Okay. Turn to the 5 1/8 side, and we are going to go 1/2 inch and 5/8 of an inch. Okay. Our closure is going to be 6 1/4 by 6 7/8. So with the 6 7/8 at the top, I'm going to score 1/2 inch and 5/8. Although you could go 3/4 and that would work too. Okay, get that out of the way. We're going to start with our accordion piece. Okay, we've got all our score lines. We're going to come straight up at a very slight angle. And then we're going to come straight in, also at a very slight angle. Okay, and then at the top we are also going to miter this just slightly. It doesn't have to be super aggressive. Okay, so we are going to fold over, burnish, fold back, burnish, fold over again. Okay, same thing on the other side. And again. Okay, I'm going to open those up and I'm going to get my bottom. So I'm going to fold the first score line, so the 1/2 inch score line, and then I'm going to come back and pop it over for the 1/8 inch score line. Okay, so I'm going to fold this in. I'm going to put a little dot there, a little dot there. We're going to fold this 1/8 inch bottom, gusset up and over, and then just hold that for a second so it can set. And did I absolutely make this way too wide? I did. But you know what? We're going to pivot and we're going to put it to the side here. And then we're going to do our large flap over the top. And actually, I kind of like that. It's a little bit different than how I usually do this. So, all right, we do need ribbon. We do not need a ton of ribbon. So I'm going to add a tiny little bit over here. And I mean, that's about all I'm going to need. Okay, I'm going to leave it attached at this point. So see, I would have had just enough to probably go around that, but that's okay. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and glue my accordion pocket on first. Okay, I'm going to miter. I decided to take some of the length off of this. I think I do, because I think it's going to be too long otherwise. Actually, no, it's just about right. So, I'm going to go ahead and just center this on the side here. And you're going to go up to the edge of your chipboard. sure you have flattened out your gusset when you do this so that you actually are gluing based on where the tab is and not just the edge of that gusset. Okay, so then I'm going to take this and I'm going to go like so, and then I can fight with my scissors and cut that. And struggle to tie a bow, as per usual. Okay, there you go. Everything is in and ready to mat.